For the past 2 months, I've really been focusing on polishing one of my game's core pillars. If the last three devlogs were the foundation, then this devlog is one of the pillars. Hello everyone, and welcome to a brand new devlog for my isometric shopkeeping RPG. This devlog is going to be a little shorter than the others, but that's because it's more concise and focuses on one topic. I did work on some other features, but they're not really the topic of this video, so they'll just be put to the side until they are relevant. The last time I worked on the shopkeeping in my game, it was received pretty well, but was seen as a pretty bland take on the concept, and in the end, I couldn't agree more. I'm not gonna lie, it was pretty uninspired. The shopkeeping in my game was also compared to this other game called Moonlighter, which I hadn't even heard of at the time, which left me pretty damn surprised, but I have played at least a little bit of Moonlighter. My inspirations were actually taken from the retail center from Animal Crossing New Leaf, which is like one of my all-time favorite games from when I was a kid. The idea was, what if I took that, but then flipped it on its head, and instead of the player buying items, the player's the one selling the items. But at the end of the day, that's essentially what Moonlighter was. I have since looked into some other shopkeeping games as well, but I actually haven't had any time to play them, because I'm very tight for time with my current schedule, so it's mainly just been watching YouTube videos trying to see how the genre actually works. In my game's last iteration of the concept, the player would kind of just watch the NPCs roam around the shop, and there wasn't really much going on. So you would just open the shop and they just kind of wander around till all your items are sold and then you just leave. So it was very bland. You couldn't even tell what the customers were going to buy or how they would get mad. They would just kind of do it and then leave. So here's how I fixed my problems. The first thing I thought of was trying to increase the interactivity of the system. So the player no longer sets prices at the displays anymore, they have to haggle the item prices with the customer. The player only has 30 seconds to haggle with the customer before they'll get mad and then leave the shop. Plus, too many bad prices, and then the customer will also get mad and leave the shop. So now, there's a lot of quick decision making involved. As you are shopkeeping, the game will keep track of the amount of angry customers you have. If the player has too many angry customers, the player will become overwhelmed and they will be forced to shut down the store for the day. This effectively adds a real sense of tension to the shopkeeping and keeps the player paying attention. Too many screw-ups and the day has been wasted. The player can also earn a variety of combos based on how well they price their items and can even rack up a chain of items sold in a row for more rewarded XP and gold. Another change that I made is allowing customers to place orders. It happens pretty rarely though. They will just pick a date in the week and then show up on that date, and then if you don't have the item, they will get mad. So make sure that you have the item. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the new way that selling items works in my game. I set out to increase the interactivity, and well, I did that. These changes will now keep the player better engaged and maybe even having fun, which I surprisingly was having while testing it, so that's a good sign that things are going well. The next thing for me to do was add some more life to the customers. To set the customers apart, they are now randomly assigned a personality and a profession, but other variables are factored in as well, which are usually hidden from the player. It is all randomly selected and wildly variable, so no two customers will be exactly the same, even if two of the customers have the same job and personality. This is to keep the player on edge and constantly guessing how the customer will react, much like in real life. I have some personal experience in this now. Customers have a maximum number of attempts, which usually averages around 3 per customer, but it varies from personality to personality. So some customers will be more short-fused, while others have a lot of patience, so the player has more attempts at selling them prices. When coming up with the customer personalities for my game, I tried to think of the real-life customers that I have to deal with pretty much every day. The personalities inside of my game will have a list of responses which they can choose from based on what is currently happening inside of the interaction. This gives the game some much needed flair, which it was sorely missing before. The next problem I realized while playtesting was that you could easily break the economy by essentially finding one easier to find item that had some value to it and filling all the displays in your shop with that item. So in order to fix this problem, I incorporated supply and demand into my game. Supply and demand affects prices both on a local and global scale. Global meaning just around the entire kingdom. If the player sells too many of a certain item in a day, the price will tick downward by 1 point. All items start in the middle and can range from 3 upwards or downwards ticks. So based on player choices, the player can effectively crash an item's price on a local scale if they are not careful enough. This means that the player can't find some crazy strategy and effectively break the game. But don't worry, the prices do eventually normalize themselves, but this will take a few in-game days to do that. Additionally, some prices for items the player has acquired at some point in the game can also change every morning to add some general randomness to the game. For example, let's say the price of apples randomly shot up, maybe the player could go make some profit selling a bunch of those in the day until they eventually crash the prices again. I also had an idea where some side quests could affect the prices of items on a global scale. For example, maybe I can have a quest where the player shows up at some kind of a farm, and then if they help the farmers, the item's price will go down, which kind of is bad for the player, but maybe they'll get a good reward or something from the farmers. But if they don't help them, the prices of the food will go up, which is good for the player. So there's some choice and decision in the game, which is good because it is an RPG at the end of the day. Again, this is just an idea though, so it's not implemented in the game, so I don't have any guarantees that it'll make it in because of time crunch, but I would like to do that. So now that I have the interactivity feeling fun and some much needed variety in the game, I now needed something to let the player progress through. And so I added a feature where the player can make their shop bigger over the course of the game. During the main story, the player can upgrade their shop with their hard-earned gold up to 4 times, each upgrade getting slightly bigger than the last. The first upgrade also unlocks a brand new feature, shop editing. The player can customize their shop's layout with brand new furniture using a brand new placement system using a grid. Furniture will be sold by the town's carpenter or awarded through quests. More on this in the next video. Placement works by picking up furniture and then dragging the furniture to where you like it. When furniture is picked up, the player can also rotate it to their liking as well. The furniture can also give off different effects, like this no order sign. It stops customers from placing orders at your store. That's just for the players that don't really like that feature, as it can get pretty annoying. As the player increases the size of their shop, the max amount of displays available becomes bigger. Plus, they can have more customers in the store floor at once. So in and around a month and a half of time, shopkeeping went from this to this. So, I'm pretty happy with the results. I've enhanced the interactivity, made the game overall more fun, and now it's just interesting. But if you have any feedback on what I just showed, feel free to leave it down in the comments. Criticism is how this game will get better. So please, don't refrain. All of these features are fully functioning and ready to go. But now I just need to gate some of them through game progression, plus make some changes based on feedback. The features are toggleable for me in the backend, so it's just a matter of implementing the game events where the player unlocks the new features. The development of the story is one of my next goals for the project. I have a good chunk of it figured out now, and all of my mechanics have at least been accounted for in the story. I am no professional writer though, so I am hoping it will turn out well. This is somewhat spoilery, but the plot will center around the rebuilding of the player's town and the mystery of the ancient ruins behind the town. Much of the greater kingdom has fallen into ruin from neglect by the royal family, so expect some politics in the game. The shop will be the driving factor of the town's revival, and the player will meet a unique cast of characters throughout the game as well. Anyways, that's all I have for this video. The amount of support that I've been receiving in the comments it inspires me, so I cannot thank you guys enough for that. And we're just at 1,000 subscribers, just a little bit below it, which that blows my mind that this has even happened. I couldn't have imagined that an actual community would have formed around my game, so again, I thank you so much for this. But anyways, see you in the next one.